the most valuable asset in women's sports, the biggest asset in women's sports, the idea that they did not have somebody in this position it's asinine, it's ridiculous, it's insulting to the fan base. It shows a lack of professionalism by what's supposed to be a professional basketball team, an organization. It's shocking to me. It is shocking.
They crafted the most valuable asset in women's sports, a once-in-a-generation superstar who put butts in seats and eyeballs on screens like never before. And yet, somehow, the Indiana Fever didn't even have someone whose literal job was to keep her healthy. No senior director of player health. No comprehensive medical oversight. Nothing. Just Caitlin Clark, the biggest name in the WNBA, left vulnerable to a catastrophic cycle of injuries that nearly derailed her entire career before it even began. And when the truth finally came out about what was really happening behind closed doors, fans were left asking one terrifying question. How the hell was this even possible?
See her back on the floor. Now, there's also a lot of us Caitlin Clark fans who are triggered by the statements that Stephanie White made on the Fever Insider podcast, where she said that the team is building around Kelsey Mitchell, and we feel like Caitlin Clark needs to demand a trade. You know, like it's a lot. It's a lot. Caitlin Clark needs to get out of there. We're going to get into this footage of Caitlin Clark back working out, back training. This is great. We got a lot more to get into. Welcome to Keep the Vision. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share the channel.
Possible. Let's rewind to where this nightmare really started. The Indiana Fever just made a massive announcement that should have been cause for celebration, hiring a brand new health director to oversee player wellness and performance. Sounds great, right? Except here's the kicker that nobody saw coming. This critical position didn't even exist until now. That's right. The team that drafted the most electrifying player in women's basketball history, a player who single-handedly transformed their franchise from irrelevant to must-watch television, didn't have a single person in charge of keeping their athletes healthy. And this bombshell only dropped after one of the most brutal, injury-plagued seasons in recent WNBA memory.
The GOAT is back in the gym. Now, my thing is, Stephanie White has some very disturbing things to say. We all know Stephanie White's a bonehead, and for whatever reason, she in the Fever organization or whoever feels like they should be building the team around Kelsey Mitchell. We've heard plenty of times, Kelsey Mitchell, she is our #1 priority last year. She'll be.
The job posting for Senior Director of Player Health and Performance appeared in late October, long after the damage was done, long after bodies broke down, long after Caitlin Clark's rookie campaign turned into a medical nightmare. The timing alone raises serious questions about the Fever's basic professionalism and whether they were ever prepared to handle a star of this magnitude. Caitlin Clark's rookie season was supposed to be a celebration, a victory lap showcasing her otherworldly talent on the professional stage. Instead, it became one injury nightmare after another, a relentless cycle of physical setbacks that kept her sidelined more than anyone could have imagined. It started early with multiple quad injuries that kept her off the court for weeks at a time. Then came a minor groin issue, frustrating but manageable. But things escalated quickly. In mid-July, she suffered a more severe groin injury that sent shockwaves through the fan base. Just when you thought she might be turning a corner, getting back to full strength,
the whole team turned into a MASH unit. It's crazy. It is crazy. It's no secret the Indiana Fever were dealt a brutal hand when it came to injuries they dealt with during the 2025 WNBA regular season. The most notable of these is regarding star Caitlin Clark, who experienced several soft tissue injuries during her sophomore WNBA campaign. She suffered 2 relatively minor quad injuries that kept her sidelined for a couple of weeks.
Disaster struck again. While rehabbing from her previous injuries, Clark sprained her ankle before an August 7th game. That ankle injury became the final straw, delaying her return timeline so significantly that the Fever ultimately made the gut-wrenching decision to shut her down for the rest of the season. These weren't just random freak accidents. They painted a grim picture of inadequate player care, of a system failing the very person it was supposed to protect. Her body, the incredible engine powering her generational talent, was literally breaking down. And fans couldn't help but wonder, was the team even equipped to handle the physical demands being placed on their franchise cornerstone? But here's where it gets even more disturbing. Caitlin Clark wasn't the only Fever player whose season was destroyed by injuries. By the end of the year, that entire roster had turned into what people in sports call a MASH unit, a hospital ward disguised as a basketball team. 4 other players suffered season-ending injuries: Sophie Cunningham, Sydney Carlson, Erica McDonald, and Chloe Bibby. All gone. All shut down. Then there's Damiris Dantas, who missed the entire playoffs because of a concussion, and here's the wild part: the source of that concussion remains suspiciously unclear even to this day. Even veteran leader Kelsey Mitchell, who'd been relatively healthy all year, suffered a freak leg injury in the final playoff game. This catastrophic injury toll across the entire roster wasn't just bad luck or some cosmic curse. It pointed directly to a systemic problem within the organization, a massive gap where professional medical oversight should have been standing guard. The sheer number of sideline stars was genuinely unprecedented and deeply, deeply concerning. So what exactly does this new job entail? Well, buckle up, because reading the job description for the Senior Director of Player Health and Performance is like getting slapped in the face with all the neglect that came before. This person is going to oversee the entire health, medical, and athletic performance department. We're talking full-time sports performance coaches, athletic trainers, physical therapists, massage therapists, nutritionists, chiropractors, even interns. Their duties include everything from initial exams and diagnosis to treatments, monitoring, and most importantly, injury prevention. It's a comprehensive, massive role that covers literally every aspect of keeping professional athletes in peak condition. And here's what makes this so damning. This extensive list of responsibilities reveals just how startling the lack of these fundamental services was before. There was a gaping hole in player care, a vacuum where medical professionals should have been working around the clock. This job description isn't just a hiring announcement. It's essentially a blueprint for what should have been in place for years, not some reactive measure thrown together after a devastating injury crisis. It completely confirms the organization's unbelievable deficiency. The outrage among fans and analysts has been absolutely palpable. People are calling this organizational professional sports malpractice, and honestly, it's hard to argue with that assessment. A WNBA team, especially one that just drafted the league's biggest star, operated an entire season without this fundamental health infrastructure. It's insulting to the fan base, insulting to the players who put their bodies on the line every single night. This isn't some minor oversight, some administrative detail that slipped through the cracks. It shows a profound lack of seriousness and professionalism within the Fever organization. It screams of an amateur approach to managing what are essentially multi-million-dollar athletic assets. The delay in addressing such a critical need, waiting until after a season absolutely marred by debilitating injuries, is being seen as unforgivable. It's a clear dereliction of duty by those in leadership positions who should have known better. And speaking of leadership, the finger of blame is pointing squarely at Fever management, specifically head coach Stephanie White and team president Amber Cox. These are the figures who should have been demanding this position be established years ago. They should have recognized the urgent need the moment Caitlin Clark's name was called on draft night, if not sooner. The fact that such a crucial role, one that's absolutely vital for player well-being and team performance, wasn't prioritized or even recognized as essential before this injury apocalypse is just baffling. Some critics are suggesting this oversight goes all the way back to last year, even before Clark was drafted, highlighting what appears to be a long-standing organizational failure. Their complete inability to proactively address player health now stands as a glaring testament to some seriously short-sighted leadership. Let's break down exactly what happened to Caitlin Clark throughout that brutal season. Early on, she dealt with 2 relatively minor quad injuries, each keeping her out for a couple of weeks. Then came the mid-season groin issue, costing her a few more weeks of action. On July 15th, she suffered that more serious groin injury, a turning point in her season. But the final blow came on August 7th when she sprained her ankle while rehabbing before a game. That ankle sprain completely derailed her return timeline. The Fever ultimately decided she didn't have enough time to properly recover and get back to game shape, so they made the call to shut her down entirely. Season over. Dreams deferred. And through it all, a haunting question lingered in everyone's minds. Who was actually providing medical care before this new position was created? It's a terrifying question when you really think about it. Was there anyone on staff adequately equipped to diagnose injuries, treat them properly, and most importantly, prevent them from happening in the first place? The implications are genuinely grim. Maybe it was just a handful of interns trying their best. Or even worse, maybe there was no dedicated professional medical staff at all. Some people have actually speculated that players like Caitlin Clark might have been forced to pay out of their own pockets for external medical attention because the team simply lacked the necessary internal support. If true, that scenario is absolutely unfathomable for a professional sports league. It suggests a gross dereliction of duty toward player welfare, a vacuum of care that's simply unbelievable in this day and age. The timing of this job posting amplifies the controversy even further. We're not just talking about a new hire. We're talking about a position that's being created in late October, after the season has completely wrapped up, after all the damage has been done. Nothing during the height of the injury crisis in June or July prompted immediate action. No emergency meetings, no urgent hiring processes, nothing. This delay screams of a reactive rather than proactive approach to player health. The organization essentially waited for the situation to become catastrophically bad, for multiple careers to be put at risk, before finally acknowledging this massive deficiency. Fans are rightfully asking why such a fundamental position wasn't established years ago, ideally before Caitlin Clark even arrived. It demonstrates what can only be described as unbelievable negligence from top to bottom. This whole mess casts a harsh spotlight on the broader professionalism issues within the WNBA itself. For many observers, the league often feels more like minor league baseball or a AA team being broadcast on local access television. It lacks the polish, the infrastructure, the basic organizational competence of major professional sports. The inability, or perhaps the unwillingness, of a professional basketball franchise to afford or even conceptualize such a critical role before a crisis reinforces that perception. If the WNBA couldn't afford to have these kinds of positions in place previously, then serious questions arise about its fundamental viability as a truly professional entity. It's an indictment of the league's standards across the board, a stark reminder of just how far women's basketball still has to evolve before it can truly stand alongside its male counterparts. Here's the ultimate irony that makes this entire situation so infuriating. The Indiana Fever possess the single most valuable commodity in women's sports right now. Caitlin Clark is a transformative superstar, someone drawing unprecedented viewership numbers and national attention, someone who literally changed the trajectory of an entire franchise overnight. And yet, they completely failed to provide the most basic professional medical support for her and her teammates. Think about that for a second. A player bringing in millions in revenue, selling out arenas, getting primetime television coverage, and the team couldn't even staff a comprehensive health department. It's an unbelievable contradiction, a staggering misalignment of priorities that defies logic. They clearly recognized Clark's commercial value, plastering her face on every marketing campaign. But the fundamental duty of care for the athlete actually generating all that value? Shockingly neglected. The professional negligence is absolutely astounding when you consider her impact on the sport. Just when you thought this situation couldn't get more controversial, head coach Stephanie White poured gasoline on the fire with some truly explosive statements. On the Team's Insider podcast, White actually said the organization plans to continue building around Kelsey Mitchell, proclaiming Mitchell as absolutely the #1 priority again this year, just like she was last year. Let that sink in for a moment. These comments came right in the middle of all the revelations about Clark's injury-plagued season and the organization's healthcare failures. For fans, this felt like a slap in the face, a dismissive attitude toward the player who fundamentally changed the team's public profile and economic viability practically overnight. It created unbelievable internal conflict and left people wondering if the Fever leadership even understands what they have in Caitlin Clark. The overwhelming sentiment among Clark's massive fan base is now crystal clear. She needs to demand a trade out of Indiana. This isn't just emotional overreaction. It stems directly from a toxic combination of factors. Stephanie White's repeated public prioritization of Kelsey Mitchell over the franchise's actual meal ticket. The organizational health failures now shockingly exposed for the world to see. A perceived lack of genuine commitment to building the team around their generational talent. Fans legitimately believe Caitlin Clark's future success, and even her physical well-being, are at serious risk if she stays. The current Fever leadership, including Amber Cox and Kelly Krauskopf, simply cannot be trusted with Clark's career at this point. The situation has reached a critical breaking point that demands drastic action. Making matters even worse are the accusations that the Fever organization deliberately deceived fans about Clark's injury status. People are saying the team lied and strung everyone along regarding her return timeline. They allegedly withheld accurate medical information, waiting until just 2 days before the season's final game to announce she wouldn't be coming back at all. And why would they do this? The alleged motive is as cynical as it gets. Keep Caitlin Clark's fans tuned in, maintain false hope that she might play, drive ticket sales and viewership numbers even while knowing full well her season was effectively over. This alleged deception is being seen as a manipulative tactic that further eroded whatever trust remained between the franchise and its most valuable asset, the enormous fan base Clark brought with her. Here's the brutal truth that nobody in the Fever organization seems willing to acknowledge. Before Caitlin Clark arrived, nobody was checking for Kelsey Mitchell. That's not a knock on Mitchell as a player, she's legitimately talented, a hell of a scorer. But the stark reality is that Clark brought unprecedented visibility and a massive national audience to this team. The idea that the Fever would choose to build around Mitchell and her fan base when Clark is demonstrably the driving force behind the team's viewership numbers and financial success is just perplexing. It represents a perceived lack of strategic vision, a baffling inability to recognize and leverage their biggest star. It's a stunning miscalculation of talent dynamics that leaves fans completely baffled. What makes this even more mind-blowing is that Caitlin Clark's value is clearly understood and appreciated by nearly every major sports league and company in America, just not the WNBA or the Indiana Fever. Golf? They get it. The NFL? They understand the Caitlin Clark effect. The NBA? They appreciate her unique crossover appeal. She's already making waves in the golf world, proving her star power transcends basketball entirely. It's an unbelievable paradox. The very league she plays for and the team she suits up for seem completely incapable of grasping or properly valuing her immense cultural impact. This disconnect highlights a profound organizational blindness that's both frustrating for fans and deeply concerning for Clark's future in the WNBA. The Fever's bewildering inability to understand and capitalize on their generational talent is perhaps the most infuriating aspect of this entire saga. Other major sports organizations recognize Clark as a transcendent figure who comes along maybe once in a lifetime. But the Fever's actions, from neglecting basic player health infrastructure to publicly prioritizing other players, demonstrate a stunning lack of foresight and vision. It's like they were handed a flawless diamond and decided to treat it like a common stone, refusing to polish it or place it in the proper setting where it could truly shine. This profound misjudgment of Caitlin Clark's value by her own organization is arguably the most unbelievable part of this whole mess, leaving fans completely speechless. This isn't just an embarrassment for the Indiana Fever anymore. It's become a gargantuan embarrassment for the entire WNBA. It paints a damning picture of an organization and a league that are fundamentally unprepared for the massive spotlight and the immense responsibility that comes with hosting a player of Caitlin Clark's caliber. This saga isn't really about one belated hire or a job posting that came too late. It's about a systemic failure of professionalism, adequate player care, and strategic vision from top to bottom. It forces everyone, from casual fans to league executives, to question whether the WNBA is truly ready for its explosive growth trajectory and whether it can actually support the future of women's basketball at the level these athletes deserve. The belated decision to finally hire a health director after this catastrophic injury-riddled season exposes a deeper malaise within not just the Fever organization but potentially across the league. It's a shocking revelation of how basic player welfare, the absolute bare minimum you'd expect from a professional sports franchise, was completely overlooked. And it led to unbelievable consequences for their star players, especially Caitlin Clark, whose promising career trajectory was derailed by preventable injuries. This entire saga represents a perfect storm of leadership failures, perceived player devaluation, and a league that's still struggling to meet even the most basic professional standards. The long-term implications for player trust and fan loyalty remain uncertain, hanging in the balance as everyone waits to see how the Fever and the WNBA respond. But one thing has become crystal clear through all of this chaos. The league has been forced to confront some deeply uncomfortable truths about its own practices and infrastructure. And now, it demands nothing less than urgent and radical change if women's basketball is ever going to reach its full potential.